was telling them the other day, we had you on a couple of years ago, and I said, remember the spectacular hair? And Babs was like, you're crazy.
Someone said something the other day.
I'm sorry, I didn't, but it's spectacular.
Funny. No, I ran into someone. They're like, man, you're like the Silver Fox now. I'm like, I thought I was only partially great. They're like, no, dude, you're
there.
You're beyond.
They call that experience.
That's right. I guess.
Wisdom.
So, speaking of experience, what was your experience like interviewing for the general manager job with the Titans with Chad Brinker and those guys?
Look, let me just say, and I really like Chad. I had an opportunity to talk to him around the business of the interview, and we really hit it off on a lot of levels. I think what they've done there right now, just if I may.
Yes, sir.
I was concerned about there being a whole bunch of younger guys interviewing, and I asked him point blank, and he said he truly wanted to interview, and he interviewed Reggie McKenzie as well, two experienced guys amongst a lot of the first-time guys, and it was a very professional and very well thought out, and Chad is a very smart guy, and he's a growing star. I am telling you, in the league, I do believe that, and most important for me is he's bringing in a guy like Mike Borgonzi, and I have a great deal of respect for Mike. You know, and then you brought in Mike also brought in and Chad brought in
Dave
Ziegler.
Dave Ziegler and Reggie. That team of teams for them right now feels really right. And then they go in together, led by Chad in that situation. Now, I like Rand a lot, don't get me wrong. You know, look, there's so many things. This is not about, like, helping everyone out here. I think what they're doing there is professional, and it's heading in the right direction now. And it's just, I've had two guys there, and both Rand and John Robinson, that I really like. You know, why this is happening, I don't know that, of course. It'll be fun to watch how it evolves.
So, wait, when you stepped into that interview, what, and if there's anything you don't want to share, whatever, just tell me.
Sure, I got it.
But what was your pitch to kind of fix where this franchise is right now?
Yeah, look, I mean, when you go into something like that as a general manager candidate, you talk about everything. You know that you're doing a lot of video work, right? And, of course, it starts with the quarterback. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, what you would do and how you approach that. As a number one pick, I was salivating thinking if I had a chance to be a part of a number one pick, what a great opportunity. Highest I've ever gone was Matt Ryan at 3, which I thought, humbly, I thought that was a good, we worked out well.
Hall of Famer.
I think that worked out well.
League MVP.
And so I think about the quarterback situation, like you guys, the Titans are in that spot with the quarterback situations that's complicated, right? And the Will Levis thing obviously is one that came up in the conversation, and then it was the right side of the line, and then it was something where I think the team, in my humble opinion, continues to need. I'm a huge believer in tight ends, and I'm a huge believer not just tight ends that are, you have a Y and you have an F and whatever. My belief is you get legitimate bona fide tight ends, especially for young guys, so that they can be high percentage shots. Matt Ryan, we brought in after year 2. You remember we traded for Tony Gonzalez. It was the biggest part of 5 years of development for Matt. We had Julio Jones and we had Roddy White, of course. And your guy can throw it down the field. We need the adeptness underneath, right? Get it off quicker before these guys are in his face. So I started thinking about that offense and what you need to do. I keep saying you. Am I supposed to say you? Are you guys?
You can.
Yeah,
okay.
It's us.
It's us.
I mean, it's Times Radio.
Yeah. I just sometimes think
I'm a fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So there you go.
Yeah. Last thing, I come in and I look at that and I believe that offense. There's an ability to grow there, of course. And look, you have one of the best O-line coaches in the history of the world. I know that's hyperbole or whatever that is, but he's fantastic.
No. We call him offensive line Jesus.
Yeah, OLJ.
Yes.
It's OLJ for us.
Yeah. And I say
there's a story behind that.
Okay.
Because I basically right when they hired him, we were talking about the offensive line, and I was like, I don't care who he is or whatever. It's not like he's Jesus. He's not going to be able to do anything with this offensive line. And they were like, no, he's offensive line Jesus.
So we call him OLJ.
So he's OLJ.
And his offensive lineman, we've told, and they signed off on that too.
Yes.
You're right.
But it's still a mess up front.
I think there's a lot of work to be done there, and I get that. And then obviously that affects your run game, and then things just keep piling on that way. So my point is, you pay that offensive line coach whatever you need to do to get the best offensive line coach. In my opinion, quite honestly, as a position coach, is so important.
Now, how difficult is it in today's game to put together a roster that has holes in it, to come and fill a roster like what the Titans have?
Well, I think where they're picking, of course, is an important thing. I mean,
Right.
you're at the top end of every round. This is a vital year to fill those some of those holes that you have. That I didn't even get into defense, but mentioning the offense there,
Right.
there are areas there that you can fill. And I'm a huge believer in scenarios, right? And you know who the strengths are in the draft. This is a very strong tight end class. This is a very good pass rush class. Okay, I'm not going in free agency there. I'm going to some of the areas that are a little less or a little weaker and think about it. Albeit, and don't even start talking to me about quarterbacks. Like, this is a different quarterback class.
Yeah.
Not that Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward aren't good and worthy of a top 5 pick. Are they worthy of 1 and 2? Don't know. Are they similar or congruent in skills to Jaden Daniels? I mean,
Sure.
I say that humbly and respectfully to them. I don't believe so. I think
No.
Jaden was in a different category that way. It will be fun to watch how this plays out, because if you're sitting at the number 1 pick overall, personally, I think you can move back. And my nickname was Trader Thomas. I was a move forward guy. I was never a back guy.
Yeah.
That's why I was excited about it, because you could go to 8 to 12, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and get a really good offensive lineman and more each round. And you could do some really good booty building,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
which I think could be cool.
Okay, so then what do you do at quarterback?
I know at that point you have to decide, and they know more. I mean, there are nuances to Will Levis. Do you continue to build that offensive line, build that run game, take the damn pressure off the guy, and let him have one more year to show? No, you guys don't want to hear that. But do you? Maybe
No,
you
I
don't.
City might explode.
Well, the city might explain.
No, but I think this is a valid discussion.
It
because,
is a valid discussion,
Will
but
Levis,
the fan base will lose it.
this will be the first time Will Levis has had the same offense 2 years in a row since he was at Penn State.
Yeah, no, it's look. I mean, I know,
know?
there's a lot going on there. I mean, I've had people tell me that they were talking with, and I don't know if they were talking with Will. They're like, look, this needs to be an incredibly focused time. I get your point, right? Fan bases get excited about it. I think we do away with the mayonnaise splits or whatever we call it. We don't. We just focus on the game, and we focus on finding out if that truly is the person to be. He was picked. What number was it in the second round? Do you
Right
remember?
at the beginning of the second
Right,
Yeah.
round.
right at the beginning of the second.
They
Yeah.
traded up to get him.
They traded up.
Was it
yeah.
34, I think?
33? 33.
33.
Look,
There you go.
I mean, during that time, you could go out and think about the free agency move, and then have legitimate competition there. That means you're going to be spending a lot. I mean, if you pull the number 1 free agent in the quarterback class, and you guys know who it is, how long does he have? And did he tail off at the end of the season? Is he worthy of $40-something million? Think about that.
It's a lot of money.
This is
especially when you have too many holes
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Right. And here's what I'd say. You get 32 general managers around here right now raising their hand. When you pick because of need, you make mistakes. That's
Yeah.
a big deal.
Yeah.
Everyone would say, look, I made all of my mistakes or most of my mistakes on over push of a need, of a pass rusher, of a corner, of a quarterback. And this is not one to come in, okay, you have to be incredibly creative. If you did draft one of those guys in the first 2 picks, who do you surround them with, and how do you go in there? We did it with Matt Ryan, not to keep going back to old school Matt Ryan, but what we did with Matt Ryan, we probably passed him 20-something times. Like, we were so mindful, and we had Michael Turner as a running back. And so we were able to really let Matt grow incrementally. I don't feel like that's the case. I don't feel like you guys again. I don't feel like the team has really let him grow like that. I don't know. Maybe I missed something.
Well, and you also had a first-time play caller in Cali, a first-time head coach and play caller, all in the same, and so I felt like kind of offensively, I mean, at the bare bottom of it, the offensive line was a disaster.
Yeah.
But, I think you also had Cali, who was getting his feet wet and finding his rhythm and all of that, and maybe not trusting his quarterback or himself calling plays for that quarterback. So
I was just going to say the most issue that I had, or the biggest issue I had, just the last thing on the assessment of Will, is like, where is he? I was around a quarterback in Tom Brady when I was in New England, and then in Matt Ryan for 13 years, whatever it was, where they had such an innate ability to understand and feel in the pocket.
yeah.
Will can move. He's got athletic, all that stuff, splits, Mayo commercials, all that stuff I get, but I was concerned about that feel, that there's an innate feel with quarterbacks that I don't know if you can change that. If you're right here and you're letting this happen, and you're not feeling that, That's a tough thing to coach in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't, but it's a tough thing. If you're
Well-
not that during it all, you can't. I don't know.
And to your point about Thomas Dimitroff with us, to your point about the offensive line, if you're a quarterback, psychologically, you're going under center, and you know you're about to go in a car wreck in 3 seconds, whether you get the ball out or not.
So true.
Like it was. So I wonder how damaging that is to your point about being able to develop that movement in the pocket.
Well, it was that, and then it was the ability. Again, he has the athleticism, but at times I'm like, you're just running right into something. It felt like this guy should be able to do this.
There you go.
And I'm like, there's a space there. Just take it another step out to the right, and it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And so I'm, again, not being around there. If you're
Yeah.
in the building, sometimes you're like, you realize what's going on there. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Real quick, how do you evaluate, from a general manager perspective, Travis Hunter? Because we just haven't seen that since maybe Dion.
You haven't seen it since Dion. I mean, obviously, an incredible athlete and the ability to play receiver and both, like all of that. How do I evaluate it? I mean, you have to come together as a staff and know where your hole is and where you want to play him. I think he can start at both, of course. I think he's a special receiver. I think his ability to do certain things is just, synonymous with some of the stuff that we had seen with Julio and some of those really special athletes like that they have the ability to move and do all the things they're doing. It's fun to watch, and he's an upbeat guy, and he's one of those guys that's going to be a really good competitor. So all of that said, I can't make that choice. Someone was asking me, would you play him both ways early out the gate? I think situationally you do. Mm-hmm. Maybe it comes down to, and I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, you play him at corner and you situation him on.
That's what makes the
receiver.
most sense,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And it's probably the easiest from a learning standpoint, and
I think you're right. That's right.
I get that. So I do have a question, because you also interviewed for the Jets GM job. We've had conversations from our listeners, obviously, about the quarterback situation and what they're going to do here. But Aaron Rodgers, can he still play?
So I went in there being really dialed in on that. He can still play, and I know, and I believe he needs to go somewhere else. I think he can play 2 more years. This is my thought.
Yeah.
I think when you watch him off-camera throws, misdirected, yes, he wasn't throwing down the field a lot, but his ability to find what – I was just projecting this to Will Levis and some of the young rookie quarterbacks. Like, he was going to hit things that other people coming in, even as good as some of these quarterbacks are, that will never be able to do what he's doing right now. So my biggest point was it's time to move on to another city for another couple years if he wants to play more. And that who knows what the Jet fan base thinks about that.
Yeah.
Kind of all over the place, I'm sure.
So as
Yeah.
Titans GM, you could have brought him in here.
Well, that's a very good point on some of these these other thoughts. I mean, who else out there? I mean, who else?
Kirk Cousins?
Daniel
Yeah.
Jones.
Yeah.
What do you think about
Well,
Daniel Jones?
okay,
He
you
just
talk
gave
about
me the look on
I
Kirk.
see.
No,
so-
you guys talk about both of those guys,
Yes.
and I would say, I would definitely say, again, respectfully to those guys, I would rather in that situation, if we're an organization that needs, I would rather have Aaron Rodgers in there coming in for a couple years, maybe working with a young guy as well, but still winning the job, because I'm sure he would win the job out the gate.
Yeah.
That's my take,
Yeah.
if he's healthy.
Yeah. Man, fascinating conversation. Thank you for
Yeah.
sitting down, Thomas.
Really good
Appreciate
stuff,
that.
yes.
Definitely.
Appreciate you.
All right, good luck,
Thanks,
man.
guys.
Thomas Dimitroff, former Atlanta Falcons GM, and spectacular hair. More 3HL when we come back. Coach Dave McGinnis joins us next on 104.5 The Zone.